Hello! My name is Charles Webster Baer, and I am in Santa Cruz, California, my hometown, and today is October 7, 2019, and this is the San Lorenzo River. So today I want to talk about the history of the universe. The universe began about 14 billion years ago with the Big Bang. Or maybe the universe has always been around, and 14 billion years ago it just expanded to a point where it was large enough for human comprehension. Humans are currently unable to understand the concept of infinity, so we'll just go with that. Anyway, 14 billion years ago, the universe was very small, energy plasma, but expanding very rapidly. As it expanded, it cooled. And as it cooled, it formed quantum particles like bosons, quarks, lepton, photon, klingons. And it continued to expand, and as it continued to expand, it continued to cool. And as it continued to cool, it started to form electrons, neutrons, protons. Continued to expand and cool, and it started to form hydrogen atoms. And as the universe continued to expand and cool, these hydrogen atoms spread out all over the place like dust. And eventually gravity acted on these different dust clouds and pulled them together. And the gravity was so intense it created fusion or fission, which started a nuclear reaction and created stars. And the universe continued to expand, and the stars continued to be created. And inside the stars formed the elements, and gravity acted on the stars and formed galaxies. Can you dig it? Yes, I can. And eventually, the Milky Way galaxy was formed. And 5 billion years ago, the sun was created, which is a star. And the solar system was created, 8 or 9 planets. And Earth was created, a hot blob of lava orbiting the sun. And the crust of Earth started to cool, and gas escaped from the Earth and formed the ocean. And in some warm pool somewhere with chemical reactions and maybe some lightning, life was created accidentally. Aren't we lucky? And life evolved into plants, which evolved into fish, which evolved into reptiles, which evolved into mammals, which evolved into monkeys, which evolved into apes, which evolved into humans, which evolved into robots, which then evolved into something else, but now we're getting ahead of ourselves, aren't we? So humans evolved in South Africa about 3 million years ago. And we made our way out of Africa 200,000 or 300,000 years ago to populate the earth. And then we started farming and domesticating animals, and creating languages, words, societies, traditions, and cultures, and heritages, and, well, frankly, around 5,000, 4,000 years ago, we started to form civilizations all over the world. And then 2,500 years ago in Greece, they formed democracy and science and philosophy and the bedrock of Western civilization. And meanwhile, at the same time, in India, there was some cat who was real groovy. His name was Buddha. And he started thinking about, you know, when I'm dreaming, I think this stuff is here and it's not really here. So now I'm not dreaming, but how do I know this stuff's here? I don't. So I don't know if this stuff's here or not. But I know that I think, therefore I am, which is Descartes, which is a French guy. So Buddha said, yeah, okay, I know I exist. And I assume everything else exists. And if it does, great. And if it doesn't, well then, I'm a soul. Well, this was pretty interesting and, in my opinion, correct philosophy, and it drifted east to China, where they understood it, and created Buddhism, and it drifted west to Jerusalem, where they didn't understand it, and created religion. Hijinks ensued. Many shenanigans took place. Human's gonna human. Then the Italians, who copied everything from the Greeks, got a hold of Christianity, and boom. And so now you've got the foundation for the European civilization, which then created the Renaissance and the Industrial Revolution, which then created technology, which then led to imperialism and colonialism and all of that drama. And then you had America, 1776, say, hey, you know what? We be free, and we're going to create freedom and human rights and laws that, you know, are groovy, and, you know, democracy, freedom of the press, freedom of speech, stuff like that, you know. And then this kept on going, you know, and now you got women's rights and equality and all kinds of groovy stuff, and everybody was like, oh, it's really great, and everything's fine, and everything's really awesome. And that was great. And you had a couple wars, and globalization. You had the internet. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. And so now here we are, 2019, and everybody's happy everywhere, and everything's fine, and everybody's just singing and dancing, and everybody's happy, and there aren't any problems anymore, and everything's great, and nothing to worry about. Everything's fantastic, and that's where we're at. So that's good news. The bad news is that the environment, not doing too good, which might become a problem, because if the environment dies, then we die with it, and that's not good. If we keep killing trees, then there won't be enough trees to make enough oxygen for us to breathe, and then we all die, so that's bad. So not only do we want to stop killing trees, which of course we won't, because we're not smart enough to figure that one out. Yeah, so that's the issue right there. That's the problem. And the problem's called overpopulation, human overpopulation on Earth. And the solution's called depopulationism. And depopulationism is an idea that depopulationists like myself support, which is that we need to create a significant and sustained decline in the human population on Earth, starting now and for the next couple centuries. And China actually invented this in the 1980s. It's called the one woman, one child policy, which means it would be illegal for anyone to get pregnant a second time. Now this is fair, it's rational, and frankly, in my opinion, it's the only option we have. Because the kill the planet option, that's not an option. That we need to take that option off the table, because all these people who are choosing the kill the planet option, no. That's not an option. Or it shouldn't be an option. So that's where we're at. And so I've been trying to promote depopulationism for 35 years. And in the year 2000, I created my website, globalinternetgovernment.com, to help promote depopulationism. And Global Internet Government is going to help promote depopulationism by creating a world government and uniting the world. I call it GIG. And the world government already exists. The United Nations and the International Monetary Fund are the world government. The UN's uniting the world politically with freedom and democracy and equality and female reproductive rights. And female reproductive rights are Female reproductive rights means that all females on Earth have the right to total and free access to all forms of birth control, including birth control, education, and abortion. So I'll go ahead and say that one more time. Female reproductive rights means that all females on Earth have the right to total and free access to all forms of birth control, including birth control, education, and abortion. So that's what the UN is doing. The UN is uniting the world politically with freedom and democracy, equality, and female reproductive rights. The International Monetary Fund is uniting the world financially and economically with transparency and balanced budget amendments and trade treaties and regional and continental currencies like the euro. And so that's the world government, the United Nations and the International Monetary Fund. Well, GIG supports the UN and the IMF. And GIG is going to help the UN and the IMF do their job, which is unite the world. Because GIG is the world government. And GIG is going to create a platform which people can get on to understand what the UN and the IMF are doing, and to participate in what the UN and the IMF are doing, and to contribute to what the UN and the IMF are doing. So GIG's going to help the UN and the IMF unite the world under the world government of GIG. GIG's going to simplify everything so people can understand what's happening. And, you know, get it on. So that's what GIG's going to do. It's going to promote depopulationism, which is why I created it 19 years ago in Portland, Oregon. And that's the history of the universe so far. And we're going to keep making history as we groove into the future. And that's the history of the universe. It's an incredibly awesome story with lots of little tiny stories, but that's the big story. And my name's Charles Webster Baer, and my website is globalinternetgovernment.com, and I'm in Santa Cruz, California, and today is October 7th, 2019, and that's the boardwalk. And that's the Pacific Ocean. That's the wharf. So, adios, ciao, hasta la vista.